Welcome back into the Inside Indiana show. Ken Bikoff along with Ed Magoni and the Hoosiers. We talked about this before the break, but they fall 59-7 to Wisconsin at Camp Randall Stadium. About the best thing that you could say about the game, Ed, besides the fact that it's over, is at least they didn't give up 83 points this time. They only gave up 59. But this is a team, Ed, that has now dropped 4 straight games, that has scored 3 touchdowns in Big Ten play. They certainly have a lot of questions. Wisconsin was not exactly the team they needed to face right then.
No, and certainly Wisconsin coming off a bye week, had extra time to prepare. They were fully healthy except for Nick Toon, Al Toon's son, who was a tremendous receiver, but they didn't even need him. I mean, it was they had, last season they didn't punt at all. This season they punted a few times, but it wasn't, the IU's defense just couldn't stop. Their passing game couldn't stop. Their running game couldn't do well. They had special teams breakdowns. I mean, it was just a complete disaster.
Yeah. Now, in all fairness, not many teams have been able to slow down the Badgers, and I think that's something. But when you do come down to it, the Hoosiers had one lone bright spot, as far as I'm concerned, and that was the running of Stephen Houston, and the fact that the Hoosiers put up 200 yards on the ground for the first time since the Purdue game back in 2007. That has to be something that they can build on.
Well, I think we saw the makings of that against Illinois. They were able to. Stephen Houston was able to get some yardage on the ground. I thought that was a step forward for the offensive line and for Stephen Houston. And then against Wisconsin, who has a very good set of linebackers, and a solid defensive line as they always do. Indiana was able to get a decent push, and they were able to spring Steven Jackson for a 67-yard touchdown at one point. They
wish they hit Steven Jackson.
Steven Houston. Well, he's starting to look a little bit like Steven Jackson, but
ran like him a little bit.
Yeah. But if everything had come on that one carry, that would be one thing. You'd say, okay, Wisconsin had one breakdown, or IU was able to open one hole and he was able to shoot through it. But when you put up over 200 yards of rushing offense on a defense, I think that's a matter of consistently coming off the ball strong and consistently opening holes. They did use Kofi Hughes a little bit with direct snaps. They used Stephen Houston with one direct snap out of a new formation, which may have crossed up Wisconsin a little bit, but Kofi only ended up with 31 yards rushing, and Houston only carried the ball the one time. So they actually were able to grind out some yardage on the ground, and I think that was able to limit the number of points that Wisconsin was able to score, or limit as much as you can with 59 points being scored.
Now, there's an old saying that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0 quarterbacks. They need somebody to be the guy. The Hoosiers had 4 different people take direct snaps, and certainly you can get away with that a little bit more at the college level, but still, I know the coaching staff said that Edward Wright Baker, they weren't real happy with the way that he kind of looked he didn't look all that comfortable in the pocket, which is understandable because Indiana's offensive line hasn't been very good. But with so many different guys running the offense at quarterback, how do you think that impacts the team a little bit, and just that ability to gain grounds, both not only on the ground but also through the air?
Well, I think it's it kind of started this way in the preseason when I asked DeMarlo Belcher. I said, if not going into a season where you're not sure who the starting quarterback is until week 1, does that affect your guys' timing? And at the time he said no. But I think that was just him being a good teammate at that point.
Yeah.
I think he was just trying to say, well, it doesn't really matter to him. He's going to run the same route. The ball will still be there. That's not necessarily the case. I mean, quarterbacks and receivers have to work on their timing because so much of the passing game these days is based on the guy has to come out of his break at the right time, and the ball has to be delivered on time before the guy even makes his break. And if you aren't constantly working with the same guy, it's tough to get that type of continuity and timing down, and I think we're starting to see that the wide receivers, which is supposed to be a strong point for the Hoosiers this season, have not performed up to where they're capable of. Quarterback position obviously is a liability and has had a ton of turnover due to injuries. And Edward Wright Baker last week was coming in against a very good defense. He hadn't played in the last 2 games, I think it was the last. He hadn't played since North Texas. So, it's tough transition for him to come back against the Badgers in a hostile environment, 80,000 people going crazy, and Wisconsin does go crazy up there. And, to come in and put him into those circumstances as his first game back, it wasn't ideal for him, but certainly he didn't play that well either.
Now, the good news for the Hoosiers, of course, is that they're playing an opponent this week, Iowa, that they've played tough before. And when we come back from break, we'll take a look at how the Hoosiers might do against the Hawkeyes.
It's a new year. There's a new buzz. And there's a new Inside Indiana magazine. For more than 20 years, Inside Indiana has been your best source for the kind of in-depth coverage of Hoosier athletics you crave, and now the best just got better. By calling 800-282-GO-IU, you can experience 12 packed issues dedicated to Indiana athletics in full-color glossy brilliance for only $49.95. But that's not all. You'll also receive access to our new Inside Indiana Express edition online, featuring game previews, news, photos, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? To stay up to date on the Kevin Wilson era and all the excitement surrounding Tom Crean's Hoosiers, plus all the news you want on the rest of Hoosier athletics, call 800-282-GO-IU today. Inside Indiana. You can't get closer to IU athletics without a scholarship.